Hey there. So, I want to talk about your next level of freedom. I want to share a conversation with you that I had with one of my clients that I think is going to help you tremendously as it relates to the next level of freedom that you're wanting to access in your life and in your business. So, on a call with a client, and she's sharing with me, we're going over some things, and she's sharing um, how much she's earning in one of her streams of revenue. And as she's saying it, because awareness is huge, she realizes, just how much that stream of revenue has been doing for her. And she says, I've been spending a lot of money. I got to slow down, spending money. And I said, how does this feel for you? You guys listen closely, okay? I said, how does this feel for you? Instead of um, cutting back and everything on what you're spending, how does it feel for you to double the amount of money that you're earning now in that revenue stream? How does that feel for you? Now, there was a pause, right? And I imagine in the pause, there are thoughts about double. I mean, can I double that? Like, how long is that going to take me? How much more work is that going to be for me? And so, in the pause, after me asking, how does that feel for you? She said yes, with a little hesitation. And I shared with her, I said, are you enjoying the measure of freedom that you've been having spending at the level that you've been spending? And she said yes. And I said, so instead of taking away the measure of freedom that you already have, why don't you just create more money? Right? Why don't you just create more money? Why don't you double the amount, less your effort, and then collapse the amount of time that it takes you to do that? We can create that. And she said yes. I could tell that she really received, how that would feel, and even the thought process of it. Because oftentimes when we find ourselves wanting something, wanting to make a bigger purchase, or wanting to save more money, or wanting to do something different, the first thought we have is, I'm going to cut back on my lifestyle. Now, I am a proponent for being a good steward. I am. I think we should be good stewards with our money. We should not spend all of our money. We should save some. But what I find, and this is where most people never really access the next level that they desire to access, what I find is most oftentimes people will cut back on how they're living their life. Now, if you're off the chain with your money, you're just doing foolish stuff, that, there would be a need for some more discipline. But even in the most, normal space of freedom in life, most people will first want to cut back on how they're living their life, how they're being in their life. And what normally happens is they become frustrated, they feel restricted in that particular space, and it just starts feeling really hard. But what if instead you decided that I'm going to earn more money? I'm going to create more money. So I shared with her, I said, if you double the amount that you're making now, then you can save more, still maintain the level of freedom that you currently have in your life, seeing as though you said you enjoy that level of freedom that you've been experiencing in your life, that often, is a trade off for money. Why don't you continue to live as free as you were before? Still keep in mind being a good steward, but as free as you were before, and just earn more revenue, less your effort, and in a shorter amount of time. I'm sharing this with you because it's a mindset shift that you have to make when you want to go to new levels. Oftentimes, the burnout comes in the process of, going backwards, right? Well, let me go backwards. Let me put my energy backwards and lessen, the freedom that I'm having in my life. Let me go back and restrict myself even more, where I become overwhelmed, frustrated, and then just go and spend it all, instead of stepping into a space where you're able to actually create more money. So as we were having this conversation, we were talking about a previous time that she had invested some years back, which was one of my masterminds. And she was like, "What did I pay for that?" Now this is strange because most people would remember, and I shared with her that it was 6K, and she was like, "Wow." She's like, "I'm still using so much of that from years ago, even now," and she said, I didn't even remember the cost of it." And what I'm sharing this part with you because I'm sure when she made the investment, it felt different. It felt strange. It felt uncomfortable, right? It was a stretch. But the way she's existing in it now, it was an investment. There was so much value in it that her focus wasn't on the cost. So much so that she's still reaping from that particular space even now. And we're connected again. And so I'm sharing this because it's so important that you're in environments with people who also believe. Because if I didn't believe, if I was just, maybe a person who she just talks to on a regular basis who wasn't thinking from that space, the immediate thought would have been, oh, girl, yeah, just cut back. I'm cutting back. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't doing nothing. The normal thought process. And unfortunately, it is rarely the path to wealth. Now, I do believe there's a space where you become an excellent steward over your money, but wealthy people are still creating more opportunities to create more money. They're not just cutting back, lowering their lifestyle, and never doing anything, never living, right? Because they're using their money to make more money. I want you to think about 4 or 5 specific things that I talked about um, just in the conversation about the coaching call I had with the client. The first word that I want you to be mindful of, to kind of marinate on, embody, if you would, is the word collapse time. Collapse time. Now, when you want to collapse time, it means what would normally take you 10 years would take you 10 months, or what would normally take you 10 months would take you 10 days. Does that make sense? So when we're thinking about collapsing time, that is what we're thinking about. But I want you to understand that in order to collapse time, it requires you to be in a way that you've never been before. It does require you to be in a way you've never been before, in a way that you haven't experienced. So there has to be a willingness to be in a way that you've never been before. It's going to require a new version of you to step up and to step out into a different space of being in order to collapse time. You can't take the same way that you've been doing things and have the expectation that you're going to do it quicker, sooner, faster. That's not how it works. And so collapsing time means that you are developing and building a new capacity for something that you haven't experienced before. That next level is something that you haven't experienced before. And if you're wanting to collapse time, you have to be in complete agreement that I'm going to have to step into a new person. My thoughts are going to have to be different. The way I look at things and the way I process things is going to have to be different. And the thing about it is, it's not that you're going to have to be like every month, you're going to have to like remind yourself that you're being this new person. It's daily. Sometimes it's every hour. Sometimes it's every few moments, reminding yourself to hit the refresh button on being the person who'd have the capacity to collapse time as it relates to how you're earning money, how you're getting clients, how you're building your life if you're looking to collapse time. The second word that I want you to marinate on, think about, and embody as it relates to your own process and your business is the word create more. Create more. And I want you to be really careful when you're embodying the word create more, because I'm sharing it from a space of creating more money, not creating more things to do. You guys got to hear me on this. Creating more money, but not creating more things to do. Because oftentimes when people think about creating more, especially as it relates to their business, it means let me make another offer, let me build out another course, let me open a whole nother business. No, it's a place of being where you are the person who is capable of creating something at a higher value that is less your effort with a sense of collapsing the amount of time that it actually transpires. So when I say create more, that's what I mean by create more. Not create more stuff to do, right? But create an opportunity for you to be the next highest version of yourself, the person who could actually double their income in a short amount of time, less their effort, triple, quadruple their income. I'm not just throwing numbers out there because when I work with my mastermind members, the energy that we step into is to 3 to 5x your income. And, I have several testimonials of clients who have quadrupled their income, 10x their income. And so I'm not just like quadruple, double, just throwing words out there. I'm speaking from a true place, from a sincere place of possibility, right? This is why it's so important that you're connected to people who actually believe. Again, if I didn't believe it was possible for my client I was speaking to today, I would have never suggested that she double her income, less her effort, and collapse the amount of time that she does it in, instead of going back and looking to see how she can cut back on the experiences she was having in her life and the freedom she was having in her life, right? If I didn't believe. It's so important to be connected to people who believe, who can hold the space of belief for your next level. The third word that I talked about in my conversation with my client that I want you to embody, that I want you to marinate on, think about how it relates to, how you want to build your business and your life, is the word freedom, right? Is the word freedom. Because many people don't realize they're not free. They don't realize that they're not free. And even when we go back to the conversation with my client, when she realized how much money she was spending, not with me, just generally in her life, she said, you know what, I need to, stop spending so much or whatever. And I suggested that she double her income, right? Instead of lessening the freedom and the experiences you're getting to have in your life, create more revenue, create more income. If this is making sense, put me in the comments if this is registering for you, even if you come back on the replay. So that third word that I want you to embody from that conversation, that I want you to remember, that I'd love for you to make sure it stands out in, your heart space, right, is the word freedom. Hey, Sojourner, how are you, dear? So which voice is speaking to you? This is something you have to be mindful of as you go throughout your day, you're doing your business and your life. Which voice is speaking to you? Is it the voice of fear or the voice of freedom? Y'all got to hear me. Because if freedom is actually what you truly desire, you want the voice of freedom to be speaking to you. And you can pinpoint. You can say, now, was that the voice of fear speaking to me, or was that the voice of freedom? Freedom will send you to the space where you are creating more, you're collapsing time, you're making more, less your effort. That spells freedom. But when we talk about just like starting to live like a hermit, right, and just cutting back on everything, does that feel like freedom? Does it feel like freedom? So the word freedom, I want you to embody it, let it marinate, and think about your own voice that's speaking to you throughout your day, throughout opportunities, throughout things that you're wanting to do, and say, now, was that the voice of fear or was that the voice of freedom? And the last word that I want you to embody and focus on as it relates to the conversation I had with my client is belief, because your next level requires a new level of belief from you. And all of it is belief. And there are different realms and different levels of it that you access as you ascend to your next level. And so, if I had to put something at the center of your ascension, your expansion, your next level, it would be the word belief. Because you're only going to build what you believe. And for all of this, it does take a measure of courage, because when you're investing on another level, when you are expanding your capacity, right? Your capacity is your ability to hold the thing that you're saying that you truly want, not what you're looking at and saying, this is what I have, but capacity is expanding so that you can hold space and receive in your life what it is that you really desire. And at the center of all of that is going to be your belief. So I hope this helps. I hope this blesses you. Again, 4 words that I talked about: collapsing time. This is where you have to step into a new space of being, right? If you're wanting to collapse time, it is a new experience that you're going to step into, because if you're doubling, tripling, or quadrupling your money and you're doing it in a shorter amount of time, it means that you're doing something new. You're doing something that you haven't experienced before. So you're collapsing time and you have to become, which is all internal. I can't even, well, I can't explain to you how much is internal, but not in a space, but it's all internal. This next level is internal, right? Because even what's going on in that internal space is going to give you the courage to do what you know in your heart that you need to do, but maybe the voice of fear has been speaking as opposed to the voice of freedom. I always want the voice of freedom to be speaking to me, right? Because freedom is what I desire. New measures of freedom. That's what it's really all about at the end of the day for me. And many of you are looking for new levels of freedom, whether that's the word that you put on it or not. It's in your relationships, in your business, in your money, new levels of freedom. And so we talked about creating more. That doesn't mean more stuff, right? It means I'm speaking in this particular space as more abundance, more money, less your effort. Less your effort. I don't mean doing more things, right? And then we talked about the word belief. So those are some things that you can marinate on, see how it registers for you, how it resonates to you in your life, in your business. What does that look like? What does your next level of freedom look like? What does it feel like? What does it feel like? That's my take. For those of you who want to connect and want further support, just message me inside my message box where you put me here, and I'll connect with you to see, how I can serve you um, to step into a new, higher version of yourself, to operate at a new capacity, right? And collapse time, like the amount of time that it takes you to make it happen. I'd love to support you in that process, and you can just message me or put me in the comments. You're welcome, Sojo. I appreciate it. You guys have a good one. Peace.